teachers.
Walkout Wednesday, protesting over pay, jobs and conditions. 500,000 workers across the country, including civil servants, university lecturers, train drivers and teachers.
I would argue that it just can't afford this pay rise.
It's a question of priorities. If you want a top-class education system, which is what brings people into the education service.
I ran my own production company and it was great, but I wanted to feel I was giving something back. I used to take students on work experience, and then I decided I'd like to give a bit more. And I first of all came in just to teach degree students sort of professional studies, how to be a professional within the workplace. And I did that on the degree. I did that for a year and a bit. I also taught a little bit on level 3. And then I went away. I went back to run the production company, and then I got a call asking me to just cover somebody who was over hours. And while I was covering him, he got ill to the extent that he was hospitalised, and I covered his entire timetable for a few weeks during an FMP, and I enjoyed it. I liked the team, and I stayed and closed my production company down, and I've been here ever since.
I am Curriculum Team Manager for Media, Music and Performing Arts.
My role is actually Vice Principal Human Resources and Organisational Development. So I look after all the sort of people and organisational strategies for the college. I'm part of the senior leadership team. So it's really very much around driving our people strategy, particularly around recruitment, retention, pay and reward, driving performance, so those kinds of things, but making sure that we have the right skills in place to be able to deliver what we need to do in an ever-changing environment, really.
You know, you would have lost another 10, 20,000 teachers or so. People are leaving this profession. You can't afford to have teachers leave in such numbers.
Of course.
When you've got to educate, you know, the next generation of kids. I mean,
Of course we do. But
So isn't it wrong to say that?
We didn't negotiate the pay. That's not what we're there to do. We didn't negotiate pay, but what we did do was talk about some of the challenges, workload challenges as well, we talked about.
Okay, so there are multiple issues. There are issues of workload. Teachers' workload increases. People think of a new thing they should do. There's very little money in the system. So they've taken money away from admin and asked the teachers to do more admin. There's a lot more collecting of data, and the teachers have to collect more data and input it. So all that's there.
One of the things that we're trying to look at now is making sure that our systems and processes are up to date and are clear, so it's not generating additional work for teachers. So if they need some information on class results or something like that, it's there at a press of a button, rather than, oh, I've got a spreadsheet over here and I've got information over here, so that data talks to each other. So you're not having to spend extra time doing that. I think that would be a big help. One, from a time perspective, but two, from the quality of the data that's coming out, so you can trust what the information is telling you. Because one of the things that teachers do spend a lot of time on is data information, seeing where things are, student attendance, all those kind of things need to be up to date, so we can actually assess, is there any areas that we need to put more resource in or do things differently. But at the moment, sometimes the data isn't as accessible as it should be.
But there is also the problem with pay. College lecturers' pay has dropped by around about 18% in real terms over the last 10 years. And that's quite a lot. That's 20, that's a fifth almost that you've fallen back behind. And that's been bad. It's been running for 10 years. This year it's got much, much worse because inflation has gone up to 10, 12%, and the college offered 2%. Well, that means that's a wage reduction of a further 10% above the 18%. So another 10% off. And I think that's the final straw. That was the straw that broke the council. It broke the will of teachers to give. And so they said, we won't do this anymore. The college have responded. We've been offered 5%, which is higher than a lot of colleges have got, but that's still a pay cut. And we can't be happy with having a further 5% pay cut on top of an 18% pay cut. And whilst that's us, school teachers are having the same. They're slightly better off than us. They have better holidays than us. So we feel that we have the worst of all worlds. We're poorly paid, we have poor terms and conditions, we have a large workload, and we're not willing to put up with that anymore.
I agree that the funding for FE is not adequate, and this has been one of the things that the principal here has been trying to lobby government, as are a lot of colleges. The pay for the funding arrangements for FE sector is not as good as the school sector. So from a competition perspective, we can't afford to pay the rates of pay that a teacher going into mainstream education can get. So I can see why teachers feel that their pay isn't in line with other teachers and in school environments, but it is just not affordable.
I mean, it's a difficult one. The students have got their own lives, and any action we take will impinge upon students. They will make students' lives worse. They will make students' ability to do their courses more difficult. So if we go on strike, students miss a day's work. That's the way it is. So it would be great if the students supported us and understood why we were doing it. And I would hope that they do. I hope that students see the work we put in and the dedication that teachers have to improving things, and understand that we wouldn't be taking strike action or any other action deliberately to hurt students. Our job is to help students, and we want to help students way into the future, and only a well-paid, well-motivated, well-rested workforce can really help students.
Well, the current teacher strikes are affecting primary and secondary school. So inadvertently, yes, I do get an effect of that. So my daughter is school age, so she has been off during those strikes. So it impacts my role at the college and my commitment to my teaching, because obviously I'm unable to provide childcare for her. It doesn't affect us at the moment, but I know that my colleagues who are in the union are fighting for better pay, better conditions, better well-being conditions for themselves and other members of staff. Ooh, that is a good question. In 5 years.
In 5 years here, in 5 years' time?
I'm not sure. I actually don't know. I think lots of experienced members of staff are leaving the profession, and I think that's a real shame. But they're doing that for the reasons that you've pointed out, the kind of the workload, the hours, the pay, their well-being, and the impact that doing that much work has on their personal life. So whether it's with their family or their pets or just generally. So the perks are outweighing the negatives of the job. I think that they may move in the direction of replacing teachers with alternatives such as learning assistants, so class assistants, and or the use of AI.
I hope that there's some sort of stability, really, that that we get the funding that FE needs and deserves, so we can recompense our teachers in the same way that in the schools get paid. So if FE was funded in the same way, then we can really pay our teachers competitive pay, which at the moment our hands are tied. I think also it's having that ability to look at the new subjects and the way that education is going, funded through sort of T levels or a bit more academic route, the technical subjects, how that will actually look going forward, and it will be the best possible way forward for our students and for our staff, really. So I hope there's a clarity and a more sense of hope, really, about the funding that goes with the FE sector.
That's a difficult one. If college funding and thought processes are the same, then it'll be worse. Teachers will be worse off. At the moment, you have a huge turnover of teachers leaving. Just in this department, we've had 3 teachers left. 1 to university, 1 to completely out of teaching, 1 has just left out of employment, just in a year. That picture isn't alone. That picture is happening in colleges up and down the country. There are 25% of teachers in colleges leave within a year. There is a retention crisis in colleges. There is a recruitment crisis in colleges. That is never going to be helped by having poor wages, a huge workload, and terms and conditions that are worse than schools. If you've got a choice as a teacher, why teach in a college when you get paid less and don't get the holidays that a school teacher gets?
Of children, but we are fighting for them to invest in their schools.